Good morning. Hello. Good morning. What a day today on social media. Good morning, everyone. This is the perfect mug for today. The perfect mug. Relax. Right? We're going to be talking about ways to do that. Good morning. Going to give you guys a few seconds to join in, and then we'll dive into our topic for today. I am certainly glad it's Wednesday. The week is half over. My kids did not want to go to their online classes today. They're tired, I think. So I had to give a lot of pep talks this morning. But, everybody can have a bad day. It's all right. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, about how not every day is a great day, but, we can look at stress and the way that the external world impacts us from many different angles. So we're going to talk about that today. Good morning. Okay, so I am Dr. Tricia Pingle. This is your morning checkup. It is Wednesday, September 30th, and I know many of you are out there talking about the intense debate last night. It was definitely intense, lots to talk about. However, what prompted my topic today is, anytime we have something like this, and it doesn't even have to be political, it could be anything that has two sides to an argument or people with multiple viewpoints, which we all have, and that's cool. I start to see a lot of anxiety, fear, anger, chitter chatter and stuff just pulling up in my feeds. And, I've learned quite well how to navigate that and just be like, okay, this isn't benefiting me. But I know that from even this whole year, has just been a up and down constantly. And knowing from a medical perspective what that does to our brain does lead me with a lot of concerns about the growing anxiety that many people are having, which is impacting your health. Right? So I thought this was a good day to talk about it because I'm sure your news feeds and your social media feeds and your friends' opinions are all going to be thrown at you during this entire election cycle, just like they are in every election year. I was talking to a gentleman. I met such a sweet gentleman yesterday. He's 93 years old, sharp as a tack, just cool dude. And I asked him, I said, so what we're seeing right now, are these the things that you've seen throughout your life? Because, he's been through the Great Depression. He's been through multiple elections, just the onset of technology, television, movie. How much this man has seen. And I so appreciate it. And he's so calm and just so chill. And he's like, we've all been here before. It's the same thing over and over again. He goes, you just have to be in the moment and you just have to appreciate what you have. And, I'm sure that's why he's lived so long, right? And why he will probably add many more years to his life. It was a pleasure to talk to him, and it puts us a lot in perspective. In fact, my kids even had little conversations with him as well, because to them, all they know is what we see right now, But to him, look how much he's been through, look how much he's seen, and look how much he's survived, despite differences, right? So I thought this was a good time to talk about how the brain and anxiety are linked from a medical perspective and things that you can do to change the way that you interpret that information and therefore benefit your overall health. Because as you know, because I've told you, stress causes disease. Okay, and we all have stress everywhere, everywhere. We all have stress. How we interpret it, what we do with it, what our outlook is about it matters. So that's what I want to talk about today. You guys cool with that? Did I lose all of you as soon as I mentioned the social issues going on? Sometimes I do, and that's okay. I'm not going to talk about any of them. I don't want to talk about politics. Your own personal business, mine, yours. But what I want to talk about is how we allow other people's viewpoints, other people's sadness, anger, and whatnot, how we allow that to impact our health, right? And how can we change that? That's what I want to talk about. Okay? Cool. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for all the good mornings. And you take care of a 94-year-old lady, smart as a whip and chill. Yeah, my grandmother on my maternal side, actually both my grandmothers lived till they were 96. Both of which, just very non-impacted by stress. Now, the men in my family all died young. All of them very impacted by stress. So, there are direct links to that. So let's talk about it. I mean, it's really no secret that there's stress everywhere these days. And not only is there stress in our own personal lives, but we also have a big window to everybody else's lives right now on a platform that you're all watching me on, right? So you guys learn about my life. I learn a little bit about yours. You scroll through, you learn about people, right? So not only are we dealing with the stress that we put on ourselves, we're dealing with social pressures, and a lot more social pressures than we even did before, in my opinion. Good morning. So it could be work related, it could be concerns about your health, your family's health, your partner, your spouse, your children's, your finances. Everywhere you turn, there's more and more potential stress, right? And we're all going through it, right? But we feel alone often, which doesn't help because that adds more stress, right? So if I told you that you had the power to reduce and impact most of this stress to improve your health, you would do it, right? Would you believe me? How many of you believe me? Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So the truth is, you can actually change the way that your brain responds to the stress. And by doing that, you actually improve things like memory and focus, energy, sleep patterns, diet, weight management, general mood, right? It can have a positive impact on your gut flora, right? How we interpret information into our brain matters. So we're going to talk about the physiology of that a little bit. Why does it matter? And what do we do? How do you start this? How do you learn how to do this? Because I think this is a very important thing for all of us to grasp. One, we need to recognize that we all have our own issues. We all have our own pressures. We all have our own opinions. And that's one of the most beautiful things about being human. In my opinion, that's one of the most beautiful things. I learn more from my patients and from the people that I interact with on a regular day than I learn in my own little bubble. Okay, I mean, I learn from everybody, and I think, and often people don't agree with me or I don't agree with them, but I love it because I learn different viewpoints. How you interpret alternative viewpoints and stress makes a difference on your overall happiness. As a society, we are not ridiculously happy right now. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all these people who are posting stuff with anger and inflammatory stuff are truly happy. I don't know. But I have a hard time believing that. I think we all have to find an understanding and a balance in our own minds and figure out how to keep ourselves happy, optimistic, and healthy. So that's where I'm at. Okay? All right. So let's get a deeper understanding about how our brain works and how to find peace. Yeah. So Instagram, I've got lots of thumbs up today. Facebook, a little quiet. You guys all right out there? I'm not losing my feed, am I? All right. The relationships, so we're going to talk a little physiology for a second. The relationship between anxiety and the brain is absolutely fascinating. It's fascinating. As I recently shared in many of my other lives, chronic high cortisol levels, okay, which is what happens when you're under stress. When you're running from a bear, you release cortisol, you release norepinephrine, epinephrine, you're releasing excitatory hormones. In fact, before I go into that, let me just remind you, in case you guys weren't following, you've got two basic nervous systems that play a role here. You've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight. I see a bear, I'm gonna run, right? I'm jumping out of a plane, right? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, right? It's a fear-based response. Fear is actually helpful in the short term, right? Because it helps you run. You see the bear, you freak out, you run. Short term. But you get away from the bear. And then you're supposed to move back into parasympathetic nervous system, which is your autonomic regulation. This is your rest or digest. This is where you clear toxins. This is where you repair your cells. This is where you digest your food. This is when you stop to have sex. I mean, all the things that you want to do to keep your life happy, healthy, and calm. But if you're always in this sympathetic output, you spend less time in parasympathetic output. Now, traditionally, we would spend, if you go back in time, we would spend more time in parasympathetic output than sympathetic output. But we've changed that as a society in general. We've changed that. Now we spend the majority of our time in sympathetic output and much less time in parasympathetic output. And we're going to be talking about things like meditation and yoga and things like that that access parasympathetic activity. But this is part of the reason why stress has become more and more of an impact on our health, okay? So when I talk about the relationship between the brain and anxiety, I just wanted to remind you guys that you've got these two different areas that regulate how you interpret, how you take the information you interpret physically, okay? Because when you're running from a bear, you have a completely different physiology than when you're not running from a bear and you're calm, right? You're not going to clear your liver when you're running from a bear. You're not going to sleep well when you're running from a bear. You're not going to go to the bathroom well either when you're running from a bear, nor are you going to digest well or absorb any nutrients, right? So we have to think about that. It's very important to access this calm side, guys. It's so important, right? Keep in mind, the one thing that will always trigger a sympathetic response is fear. Just putting that out there. This goes to all sides of every argument right now. There's fear everywhere. All different health topics. Fear promotes sympathetic output. Okay? So long term, that's a problem, right? Okay, cool. Okay, off my soapbox. Anyway, so as I've shared before, high cortisol levels in a chronic state will have toxic effects on your brain over time. It actually, if you didn't see the live on that, I could redo a little bit of it coming up here, but it actually impacts your prefrontal cortex to start to degrade it so that you don't interpret information in the future correctly. Now, this has been well known forever. You look at ads, advertising, there was a cool thing I was watching the other day with my husband and my kids on looking at facial structures and like who you would buy a product from, right? And how the brain automatically plays tricks on itself based on its memories and what it's done. Well, the prefrontal cortex decides, what are you going to do? What's the plan, right? So when there's been repetitive cortisol output, it changes the way that you interpret new information and what you do about it. And the problem is that can result in things like anxiety, brain fog, poor energy, inability to focus, those types of things, okay? So, and then often those lead to medications, right? And those medications lead to more side effects, which also change the way that the brain works. So it's kind of this ongoing hamster wheel type thing. So anytime you experience a stressful event, your cortisol level goes up and it causes your body to enter that fight or flight mode. When that happens, it sets off this chain of events inside your brain, okay? So you see the bear, right? You have this fear or this trigger, and it sends a message to your amygdala, which is an awesome name, amygdala, which is the part of your brain that's responsible for processing emotions such as fear, happiness, all of these, sadness, all of these emotions. If you guys have seen the movie Inside Out, have you guys seen the movie Inside Out by Pixar? I actually quite enjoyed that because it's basically the hippocampus, the control center, right? What happens when that signal goes in, when that emotion goes in? What we do is driven by emotion. So how you interpret what you read emotionally matters, right? And this is where advertising comes in. This is how people get you to buy a certain brand of something or whatnot, right? It has to do with the triggering of emotion. So there's a very complex area there that's very well studied and very well known. But anytime that your amygdala is signaled, it impacts the area of your brain in the prefrontal cortex that has to do with learning and memory. So you learn new patterns every time something is signaled, right? As we've discussed before, this process can be very helpful with short-term stress, right? You see a bear, you run, you get away from the bear. All is good. But we don't really get away from the bear anymore, right? Where there's always another one. There's always another worry. There's always another thing, right? You haven't seen Inside Out, Carolyn? Oh, you'll have to look that up. Look that up. It's a good one for the kids. So when this happens over long periods of time, it actually damages your brain. And this is a lot of the times where anxiety can completely get out of control, because it's just the brain is actually being damaged by it and missignaled by it. And so a lot of the times, a lot of medications are used, and the person never really learns how to deal with those triggers and that stimulation. Okay, so now here's where it gets kind of interesting. If you were to encounter an immediate stressor, such as a bear in a walk in the woods, or some sort of event that triggers something or whatnot, your amygdala would signal fear so that you could get away from it. And then the amygdala will calm down. It'll be like, oh, I'm good. And then we shift back to parasympathetic, okay? But anxiety is different, okay? Because the fear doesn't go away. So therefore, that sympathetic output doesn't go away, right? It just triggers more and more and more worry, okay? Anxiety is less intense initially, but longer lasting response to a stressor, making it more of a chronic stress issue. Now, benzodiazepines, which are the primary treatment in conventional medicine for anxiety, their use is through the roof, okay? More so this year. I've seen more anxiety in my practice this year than I've seen any other year, right? It's important for us to learn from this experience. And this is one of the things that I'm going to go into is, how do you retrain your mind? How do you reframe your mind? Well, I'm choosing to learn from this experience. I'm choosing to learn from how this has impacted people, how this has impacted me, and figure out how I'm going to change the direction of my life moving forward. What am I going to do with my business? What am I going to do with my family? What am I going to do with my close friends, the environment around me? How am I going to make a positive change from this rather than continue to go down a rabbit hole? Well, that's very easier said than done for many people. And I think this is where we're struggling as a nation, as a world. We're struggling with not everyone understanding how to do that. And that's why I'm here, is to help you guys learn. Okay? So when you've had this chronic stress that increases emotional responses such as fear and anxiety, this is due to the effects on the amygdala. These effects are likely over time to lead to overactive fear and anxiety, and therefore further decrease the function of the areas in your brain responsible for keeping your fear in check and suppressing the amygdala's output. These areas are your hippocampus and your prefrontal cortex, particularly your medial prefrontal cortex. Have you guys heard of the hippocampus? I remember back in high school when I learned about it, I thought, gosh, it's kind of fun the way they name the brain. Hippocampus, kind of fun. But the hippocampus plays a huge role in your health. It plays a huge role in your memory. It plays a huge role in how you see the world. Scientists have discovered that when your brain is constantly exposed to high amounts of the stress hormones, cortisol and norepinephrine, it causes your hippocampus to actually shrink. Yes, they actually watch the size of it shrink. Crazy, okay? It further inhibits the ability, when it shrinks, it inhibits the ability for your amygdala to regulate further input. So what happens is the fear that you get initially, which might be at like a level 2, will continue to get higher. So let's say there's a picture of, something evil. A picture of, imagine an image that gives you fear. And the first time you see it, you're at like level 2 of fear. And then the next time you see it, you're level 3. And then you're at level 4. And then you're at level 5, right? That's the amygdala overreacting to the same image multiple times. There's a reason why people use the same images over and over again, right? So those are things that you have to start to recognize, because ultimately it can lead to memory loss, brain fog, inability to concentrate, sleep disturbances, general joy in your life disturbances, because if you're always anxious, you become depressed at the same time. It can lead to excessive medication use. We are seeing more and more overdoses that involve the use of benzodiazepines, antidepressants, and recreational drugs, right? All put together because people are trying to figure out how to get out of that cycle. And they're looking for anything to get them out of that cycle, right? And it's resulting in more death, more disease, more destruction. You see this, I see this long-term in people on ADHD type medications. You know, it works initially, they feel like they can focus more, but what happens is it causes a constant stimulation in the body, similar to cortisol and norepinephrine. So you actually get shrinking hippocampuses later, right? And then they can't work or have any memory without the medication. So there's a dependence there as well. Right? Luckily, there's quite a bit we can do, okay? That will help calm an overactive amygdala and support an underactive hippocampus and support how we interpret information. Before I go into the 3 tips I have to retrain your mind, let me catch up here. You guys have been typing. Is crying bad for one's health? Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear about your husband, Lori. No, I cry regularly. I cry on my lives half the time. When you guys just touch me with a comment or you feel what I'm feeling, I tear up. I do now. Just reading about your husband being terminally ill makes my heart hurt. But I think that crying is an emotion that if you know why you're crying and you need to release that energy, it's okay, right? It's all right. There's other people that have gone through exactly the same thing. You're not alone in this. So just remember that, okay? There's also, sometimes you're not in control of that, right? And so sometimes there's a level of acceptance that has to come. In fact, well, I'll talk about that story in a second in my first segment. But sorry to hear that, Lori, honey. Hang in there. Fred, I wish it was that simple, right? Okay, stress hormones are released in tears, yeah. Right? It's a way of release, right? Good afternoon. I had something. What good does cortisol do? Well, cortisol is absolutely essential for our health because when we are faced with a true threat, it is what saves our life. It changes our blood sugar so that we can run. You know, it diverts what we need to the muscles to get away. It helps us focus in on what our task is. So cortisol's great. It's just not great chronically. That's the problem. I want to make that clear. Everyone's like, oh, we don't want cortisol. Yes, we do. Cortisol wakes us up in the morning and low cortisol levels at night put us to sleep. So we actually need that normal rhythm. The problem is most people aren't in normal rhythm. So we're supposed to be highest in the morning and then slowly tank throughout the day, go to sleep, and then wake up in the morning. But what a lot of us are doing are this, right? Where cortisol shoots up, cortisol drops, cortisol shoots up, cortisol drops. Now, before it gets to that point, cortisol has to be quite high all the time, and then it turns into an up and down thing, right? And then it turns into a none thing because the adrenal glands get burned out. So this is the process of adrenal fatigue. And this is why I say stress impacts every single part of your body because when you're running from a bear, think about what you do. You change your heart rate. You change what you focus on. You don't know where you're running. You just run. You're not thinking it, right? And then when you get there, you're like, God, how the heck did I get here? You don't remember, right? I do that all the time. Where did I leave my keys? I don't know. Where was I? I don't know because I wasn't present in that moment. So cortisol is very helpful in the short term. It is not very helpful in the long term, okay? Thank you. Yeah, empathy does make a difference with crying. And I'm a very empathetic person, probably too much at times, but that's okay. I embrace who I am. It's all good. So let's talk about it. 3 tips. I'm going to give you 3 tips of ways that you can reframe or you can kind of retrain your mind not to be so traumatic. Marie, after my diagnosis, I cried buckets, but I've accepted it and now my anxiety has leveled off. Yeah. There are a lot of survivors out there of really chronic diseases and they survive. You know? Attitude does matter. Does diet impact cortisol? Yes. So high sugary foods, high fat foods, lots of additives, colors, processed foods can be stressful on the body in themselves. So diet does matter. Absolutely it does. Okay, reframe your situation. So as we've discussed, anxiety and the brain are linked, okay? It's just the way we're built. So how can you better respond to that bear, respond to that stress so that you do not trigger too much anxiety over it, okay? How do you find more peace and boost that function of your brain? Now, it's a pretty simple tip in theory. It's not always so easy to implement. This takes practice, right? So this is what I do. This is my first step to achieving a more peaceful life. Number one, ask yourself if this stressful situation is worth sacrificing your health for. Right? Think about that for a second. I'll give you an example, but if you think about that, during times of stress, whatever it may be, it's real easy to let your mind wander to all of the possible negative effects, all the possible negative outcomes, everything that could go wrong. That's one of the easiest things to do. That takes no discipline at all. Your brain will go there right away, right? Because that's the amygdala, fear, right? So immediately you'll go to the negative, okay? And that leads to anxiety, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. So the next time you encounter a situation like this, I want you to stop and ask yourself, is this worth a chronic health condition to worry about? Now, here's an example. Everybody has worries and stresses, okay? So when I see a social media post that makes me go, right? I think, okay, this isn't worth messing with. This isn't worth sacrificing my health for. Forget it. Sometimes I'll even start a comment and then I'll delete it. I'm like, Trisha, just let it go. But when my mom had cancer, okay, and she was sick, and she was declining, and she was terminal, I had to say to myself, okay, is this stress that I'm going to take on, just being there, watching her go through this process, doing whatever, is it worth risking my health for? And my answer was yes, it was, because I just wanted more time with her. And that, just those last 9 months, the stress associated with that it put on my body was well worth it to me. Always will be. See, I cry. It was worth it to me. It was worth sacrificing my health for. You know? Other things are not. They're not worth it, right? Sometimes you do choose the stressful route. Sometimes you have to. But if you're not giving in to the other things, right? If you're not giving in to the little things that are not supposed to be stressing you out, it won't be so bad. You will pull through and you will find the good in it. So I sat there and I could have said, my mom is dying. Oh my God, and believe me, I said this a zillion times to myself. My mom is dying. She's my best friend. She's grown my business with me. She was my receptionist. She opened my practice with me. She was the face of my office. She was pivotal to everything that I had become as an adult, in my opinion, in that moment. She was everything. We did it together. We were not only mother and daughter, we were friends, we were business partners. She was my person. And I could have sat there, and I did sometimes, and say, why could this happen to me? Why is the world doing this to me or her? And I could have just sat there and worried every day that something else was going to happen to somebody else and this and that. But I'll tell you, as I started to work through it, and definitely at the time of her death, I look back on it and I say, wow, what an amazing opportunity to just spend quality, beautiful time with one of the most important people that I've ever known. It was a positive in my life. I turned it to that and said, you know what? Everybody goes at some point, and not everybody has an opportunity to be there with that person until they go. My dad died quickly. I was not with him when he died. He was here, and then he wasn't, right? My mom, I had an opportunity, as painful as it was, to spend more time with her, to ask her about her life experience, to learn from her. And I'll tell you what, it changed my outlook on my business, my mission in life, my social circles, what I'm going to do with myself, what inspires me to move forward, if I wouldn't have had that experience, my life would probably be completely different. I can tell you I would not be here right now talking to you if my mom had not passed away. It changed the course of my life. That's a positive, okay? That's what reframing is. Am I shoving the pain under the rug? No. I'm not telling you to be optimistic and forget the stuff you have to deal with. I had to deal with it hardcore. But by dealing with it, I was able to see it from a larger perspective. And this goes with everything going on in our life. We get these posts, we get these feedback, we care what other people think. And the bottom line is, these are little things. There are so much bigger things in life to, quote, worry about. Although I don't consider it worry. You know what I mean? I have a comment here. I had miscarriage while going through caring for my mom with terminal cancer. It was heartbreaking, but I grew to understand the journey of it all. I'm sorry you lost your mom to cancer too. Yes, bless you. And you know, it's such a horrible thing to go through, but yet it very much defines who I am and the energy that I'm going to pass to all of you and the people around me. I said a couple weeks ago when we did resonance repatterning, I was talking about how we're all just energetic beings, right? And what the energy that we put out is the energy that we get back, right? So if we're putting out negative energy on everything, we're going to get negative energy back. And I just refuse to do that anymore. And I think that I did that before. I think I was more negative, right? And then when she passed, I realized how valuable each second of our lives and our day and our moments are. And that moves me into number 2, which is live in the moment. Right now. What are you doing right now? And what positive impact can you have in your life and the people around you right now? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. Powerful point. Why? When we've experienced a lot of fear or we've experienced a lot of heartache, pain, stress, it changes the way our prefrontal cortex works. And it alters our memories and it alters our learning. So we actually start to change our memories in our head. When you're doing that, you're finding yourself dwelling on memories that may not 100% be right. It's important to live in this moment. It's all we have. I've learned, and many of you have learned as I'm learning, that people could be gone in a moment. You could be gone in a moment. So how you utilize this time is very important. There are always stresses, there are always arguments, there are always elections, there are always things. You got to keep moving forward. Be in the moment. Is it worth sacrificing your health for? In fact, studies have shown that having a positive mindset actually makes your brain work more effectively, right? And that makes sense, right? So if you're finding yourself struggling, write down things you're grateful for, set the stage for a more positive approach, reach out to friends that have similar experiences, preferably ones that lift you up, not tear you down, right? Reset that and be proactive. What can you start doing right now that will give you a better outlook on the next opportunity? So there are many times that I've missed an opportunity, or I feel like I've missed an opportunity, right? I'm like, oh man, that was totally mine. Like, why did I miss it? But I didn't miss it. It wasn't the right one. Around the corner was something else. And if you're not paying attention and you're not being proactive and you're not living in the now, you will miss it. Don't miss it. These horrible things that happen to us are not actually horrible. They're learning opportunities. And if you turn your life to that outlook, you will be healthier longer, okay? That's the key to health. People say, how do I stay healthy? What supplements should I take? How much should I eat? What should I eat? What exercise should I do? I'm telling you, the key to the longer health has to do with what I'm talking about right now, the mind-body connection between what your brain thinks and your body does. That's what matters the most. That is the key to youth. That is the key to energy. That is the key to sleep. That is the key to life. That is the key to reducing diabetes. That is the key to reducing cardiovascular disease, to reducing mental disorders, to reducing addictive behaviors. It brings joy to your life. That is what matters. Okay? Living in the moment. How do you do that? So I'm like the world's worst meditator. I really am. I'm really not good at it. Because I'm very, what's the word, folks? Energetic, right? I have a lot going on all the time. I'm always doing a lot too, right? I have a lot of different things in my life, a lot of different aspects of my life that I am so incredibly grateful for. Oh my God. But learning how to meditate can be a bit difficult, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, the bottom line is the goal of meditation is to just take you out of sympathetic and put you in parasympathetic. Sometimes this can be done by something as simple as deep breathing, okay? Other times you can do more of an active meditation. Sometimes it's accessing the creative side of your brain. You know, sometimes I'll, sometimes I'll paint something or redecorate something or do a project with my kids, and that just takes me right out of that stress mode. I love to dance. Dance is a great way to do it as well. You guys made me cry and my nose is running. It's all good. I swear I'm fine. Okay, so there are some exercises. I do have a link in the article on different ways to breathe. You may have heard of some of these techniques, but there's a 4-7-8 breathing technique, which was developed by the alternative medicine guru, Dr. Andrew Weil, which has to do with a yoga type exercise for breathing, where you're holding your breath for a count of 7 and exhaling for a count of 8. Through your mouth, and it makes a whoosh sound, right? So you're inhaling for 7, whooshing out for 8, and you do that repetitively, a total of 4 breaths typically. There's also alternate nostril breathing, which is where you're basically switching which nostril you're breathing through. That has some great impacts on releasing anxiety and stress. Diaphragmatic breathing, just focusing, I don't think Facebook can see you, my hands are on my rib cage, focusing on moving the diaphragm when you breathe. Those types of things. There are tons of different breathing techniques. I do have them listed with instructions of how to do them. Sometimes that's all you need. I have a comment about dancing and research is the best exercise for dementia and Alzheimer's prevention. I agree. And as a 44-year-old woman trying to learn choreography with a bunch of teenagers, keep up with it, and then perform it, accesses so many different areas of my brain, not only exercising my brain, but giving me a physical workout as well. So I highly recommend dance. And thank heavens to those girls that let this old lady into their class. They're so sweet. So that's breathing exercises is how you start meditation. Then there's further, developments beyond that. If you have a hard time doing that, I also do Pilates. Pilates helps me meditate, helps me focus on my body. A lot of people do yoga. I think a lot of just knowing your outlets, how to distract your brain from worry. Very, very important. I mean, sometimes I just clean the heck out of the house and I'm focused on scrubbing whatever I'm scrubbing and I'm not focusing on whatever else is going through my mind, right? So number 3, schedule time to relax. So schedule time. I know this sounds almost impossible, but if you're not taking care of yourself, there is absolutely no way that you can take care of anybody else. I've learned that probably more as a doctor than anything else in my life. My experience as a doctor, going through times where my schedule was too full, I was overwhelmed, young children, putting everybody, my patients, my family, my friends, people I don't even know ahead of me. And unfortunately, that had detriment to my health, which is part of the reason why I kind of decided, okay, well, I can keep going down this path and I can have detriment to my health, or I can I can turn this positive and I can focus on the things that not only benefit others, but also benefit my health and really focus on that. And that would be the best way for me to go. And it has been, and I'm so glad I did that. But I don't think I would have done that if I wouldn't have experienced the previous. right? So these things that happen teach us what we're missing. So if you keep getting the same lesson over and over again, you need to change the way you respond to it. You're responding to it wrong, right? We should all have new lessons, new challenges, and we should grow from it. We're being presented with probably the most challenges in my lifetime that have ever been presented to anyone this year. So what are you going to do? Are we going to change the way that we look at these situations, or are we going to let it take us down? Your choice. But I encourage you, schedule time for you. Think about what's best for your health. Once you're able to reduce that worry and stress and focus on the ways that you can grow from every single situation and stressor, your anxiety won't prevent you from taking that time to rest, relax, and restore. Research has shown that chronic stress and anxiety can actually damage your brain, making you more vulnerable to neurodegenerative diseases, particularly Alzheimer's and dementia, which are on the rise. Why? Let's do a different live on that one, right? Okay. Now, additional research shows the opposite. It says that if you're regularly engaging in relaxing activities, it will help you rewire your brain to calm you down the next time stress comes along, right? There we go. Should I take a step off my little box today? I just get frustrated because I see people struggling. I see people out there struggling with this. And I understand it and I get it. And I don't think you get it till you've figured out how to change it, right? So, you know, the Trisha 6 years ago would be reacting differently than the Trisha today, and probably different than the Trisha 3 years from now, right? Every day you try to get better. Homeschooling is so hard with my daughter and husband while both. It's so hard. My Lord, my kids go back to school in, not this Monday, the following Monday. And I'm so happy for them. It's been stressful on my husband and I, but to be honest, far more stressful on the kids. And I just want them to be able to enjoy the moment and enjoy the now and not live in constant fear. So, you know, sometimes you have to weigh your different options and you have to make a choice. And so we made the choice to send them back, and hopefully everything will go okay. I just have to trust the way of the world. There was nothing I could have done to save my mom. There was nothing I could have done to save my dad, my grandmothers. You know, most of my family, actually, pretty much all of my direct family is passed on. And I have some cousins and aunts and uncles who I adore, and step parents and such that I'm grateful for. But I think that gives you a different perspective on what you're supposed to do with your life in this moment, and how much time is it really worth worrying about. So, stress makes you feel sorry for those poor neurotransmitters. Yeah, it absolutely changes neurotransmitter balance. So that's another great topic. So, all right. Unemployment is devastating right now, especially for people who can't collect unemployment. Yeah. I mean, a lot of aspects of my business changed through this time, and I had a choice to worry about it, cry about it, dwell about it. I did for about a day. And then I thought, all right, I have no control over this. No control. So I have to let go. I have to let go and trust that this is what I'm supposed to do. And this is what the world is telling me to do. And this is where we're going to move forward. And I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. And I think that's made this a little bit more tolerable for me versus a lot of the people that I talk to, right? Sometimes you just have to let go, you know? And we don't really have a lot of choices sometimes. And that's okay. Right? So anyway, I won't keep you guys here forever. So nice to see you. I thought maybe we could use a little inspirational topic today, so I really do hope it helped. Tomorrow I probably won't get on my soapbox quite as much, but hey, I just want you all to take a positive message from anything that I put out there, because the bottom line is health is important. Be grateful that you're alive. You woke up this morning. You're able to do what you need to do to enrich your life and the people around you further. And I ask you to, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and remember that the energy you put out is the energy you will get back, okay? Much love to all of you. I'll see you tomorrow, 9:15. Thank you. Bye. Oh, by the way, I meant to say, sorry, before I go, for those of you that haven't signed up for my email list at drpingle.com, please do, because I put so much content in there that I don't necessarily put on social media. I also have exclusive offers, discounts, things like that. So if you have not gone to drpingle.com and signed up for the email list, please do it right now. Become a part of this community. I do send out weekly emails with articles such as this that talk about ways you can improve your health. So if you haven't done so, please do it right now. And then to all of you that take the time to share my lives, thank you. Keep sharing, keep spreading the love, okay? I am so appreciative and so grateful for each and every one of you for being here on this journey with me, okay? So have a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.